The lounge fridge had exactly one string of leftover garland taped crooked around its door, and I'd walked past it so many times tonight I could have drawn it from memory. "You could take it down, you know," Denise said, catching me staring. "Nobody would notice." "I would notice." I poured coffee that had been sitting since the 4 o'clock huddle and drank it anyway. We were down to a skeleton crew: me, Denise, a resident named Theo who'd been hiding in radiology for an hour, and apparently Jonah, who I hadn't seen in 11 months and had specifically, quietly, hoped not to see tonight of all nights. He walked in at 11:15, holding 2 coffees from the machine down the hall, saw me and stopped like he'd hit glass. "They didn't tell me you picked up this shift," he said. "They didn't tell me either. About you, I mean." I set my cup down carefully, like it might give me away if I held it too tight. "I thought you transferred to Memorial." "I did. I'm covering. Guy who was supposed to be here got the flu." He held one of the coffees out, an old habit neither of us had bothered to unlearn, apparently, since I took it before I'd decided whether I should. The floor was quiet in that specific hospital way, not peaceful, just paused, like the whole building was holding its breath until the holiday passed. 4 patients total. Mrs. Alvarez in bed too, stable and snoring through a rerun of some claymation special. A post-op gentleman in 4 who wanted nothing but ice chips and to be left alone with his phone, texting grandkids in Denver. Nobody was in danger tonight, which meant there was nothing to hide behind. "I had a flight," I said, because somebody had to say something. "Cancelled, weather in Chicago." "I had a whole thing planned too, dinner with my sister, then apparently I was going to sit around not calling you, like I have for 11 months. He said it lightly, like a joke he hadn't quite landed, and I felt it anyway, right under my ribs. "You could have called." "So could you." We stood there in the hallway with our matching vending machine coffees, and I thought about how easy it had been to let the silence become a decision neither of us actually made. We'd never fought. We'd just both gotten quiet after a bad week where I picked a double shift over his birthday dinner, and he never said it hurt, and I never asked, and somehow that non-conversation became the whole story of us. At midnight, the overhead speaker crackled with a canned announcement, wishing the hospital happy holidays, and Denise turned off half the lounge lights for no reason except that it felt right, and Theo finally emerged from radiology holding a plate of cafeteria sugar cookies shaped vaguely like snowmen. "Last of the ones from the volunteer cart," he said, setting them down like a peace offering to nobody in particular. Jonah took one, broke it in half, gave me the bigger piece without asking. It was such a small thing, it undid me a little. "Can I say something?" he said, once Theo had wandered off to check on Mrs. Alvarez. "And you don't have to say anything back." "Okay." I let it go because I was scared that if I pushed, you'd tell me the job would always come first, and I didn't want to hear that out loud. So I just stopped asking, which was its own kind of cowardly. I turned my cup in my hands. There's a version of me that would have deflected, made a joke, gone to check a chart that didn't need checking. I was tired of being that version. "The job doesn't come first," I said. I let it become the easy thing to blame, because blaming a schedule is simpler than saying I was scared of exactly what you just said, that eventually somebody would ask me to choose, and I'd have to actually look at what I wanted instead of what was safe. Somewhere down the hall, a call light chimed, soft, and Denise's footsteps answered it before either of us moved, which felt like the hospital itself giving us a minute. "I'm not asking you to choose anything tonight," Jonah said. "I just didn't want another year to go by with us being polite strangers who used to know each other." "We're not strangers." I said it before I'd fully thought it through, and it came out truer than I meant it to. "I've thought about you basically every Christmas Eve since. Ask anyone who's had to listen to me not talk about it." He laughed, actually laughed, the first unguarded thing all night, and something in my chest loosened that had been tight for so long I'd stopped noticing it as tightness. We ended up back at the nurse's station a little after 2, sharing the last cookie, watching the snow come down sideways past the ambulance bay lights. Nothing got resolved in any official sense. There was no grand gesture, no dramatic vow, Just two people who used to matter to each other, admitting, quietly, that they still did, and that maybe the timing that felt so wrong for so long had just been waiting for a night with nothing else scheduled to get in the way. I keep wondering, honestly, whether the version of us that let it go quiet last year was protecting something or just avoiding it, whether silence is ever really kinder than a hard conversation, or if it just delays the same conversation until you're standing in an empty hallway at 2 in the morning on Christmas, finally saying the thing you should have said 11 months ago. Before shift change, he wrote his new number on the back of a coffee sleeve, because neither of us trusted that we'd remember it otherwise, and I put it in my pocket instead of my phone, like I wanted to keep it somewhere closer than a screen. When Denise clocked out at 6 and asked how my Christmas turned out, all I could say was that it started out cancelled and ended up being the one I'd actually wanted all along. I just hadn't known it yet.